Welcome to Radio AI, providing intelligent and relevant political and legal news via streaming, YouTube, and on podcasts. Today's story involves a subject that affects us all: immigration. Harrison, take it away.
In the heated cauldron of modern politics, the debate over immigration simmers with complexity, touching the very core of national identity, economic vitality, and human compassion. The United States, a tapestry woven from generations of immigrants, finds itself at a crossroads, grappling with the practicality and politics of open borders, in an era where such an idea seems both ideologically divisive and logistically unfeasible.
Navigating the labyrinthine process of legal immigration to the United States is a Herculean task, beset by bureaucratic hurdles, long waits, and stringent criteria. This arduous journey reflects not just the nation's attempt to manage its borders, but also the inherent challenge in balancing openness with security, opportunity with order.
The current struggle to enforce immigration rules casts a long shadow over this debate, with a palpable tension between the need for effective management and the reality of constrained resources. This dilemma is exacerbated by political strife, as some factions within Congress, particularly among Republicans, withhold funding, hindering efforts to maintain a functional and fair immigration system.
At the heart of the discourse, figures like former President Trump and his supporters vocalize a staunch opposition to immigration, fueled by xenophobia and a zero-sum perspective of the economy. This viewpoint not only misrepresents the nature of economic growth, but also overlooks the historical contributions of immigrants to the fabric of American society.
Contrary to the negative economic stereotypes, the evidence is clear. Foreign-born workers have been instrumental in America's prosperity. From driving economic growth to mitigating inflation, their role is undeniable. The U.S. labor force has expanded significantly, thanks in large part to these individuals, even as the native-born workforce experiences slight declines. Far from usurping opportunities, immigrant workers have filled vital gaps in the labor market, ensuring low unemployment rates among native-born Americans and contributing to a dynamic, versatile economy.
Their value extends beyond mere numbers. Immigrant workers bring diverse skills that complement those of the native-born population, fostering innovation and preventing supply bottlenecks. In the face of the COVID-19 pandemic, their role became even more crucial, aiding in the recovery of the U.S. economy from unprecedented disruptions.
Moreover, immigrants are a linchpin in the sustainability of America's fiscal future. Predominantly of working age, they contribute significantly to the tax base, supporting social programs that benefit an aging population. This demographic reality underscores the essential nature of immigration to the nation's long-term prosperity.
While the challenges at the border are real and necessitate thoughtful solutions, it is imperative to recognize the broader picture. Immigration, with its intricate interplay of human aspiration and economic necessity, remains a cornerstone of American strength and success. In the quest for a policy that reflects both the values and the interests of the United States, the narrative must evolve beyond fear and division towards a more inclusive, pragmatic, and compassionate approach. The story of America, after all, is a story of immigrants, a testament to the power of diversity and the endless possibilities that emerge when doors are opened, not closed.
Thank you, Victoria. We have heard from the experts. Now, let's turn things over to our listeners. Audrey, what have you got to say?
Harrison, I've found that you often have confounding perspectives that wildly differ from reality. America does have open borders and 10 million migrants have come here in the past 3 years. It is anything but difficult to come here. Biden does not have to wait for Democrats or Republicans to solve much of the problem. Just reinstate Remain in Mexico. Legal immigration is good. 10 million inches asylum, seeking economic migrants is not sustainable, and they need to be deported. Poor American citizens are starting to get quite annoyed at the billions spent to feed, clothe, and house these migrants.
Thank you for that. Perky from Kingston, what say you?
Finally, somebody tells the truth. Every additional immigrant coming to the U.S. makes us stronger and richer. Whether legally or illegally is irrelevant. If you are willing and able to hike through the Darien Gap to come to the U.S., then you are more capable and more motivated than 90% of people born in the U.S.
Good point. Tom from Ottawa, Please weigh in. America turned away over 2 million undocumented migrants in 2023. That is hardly an open border. America and Canada both face the same problem, an aging workforce and a falling birth rate. At the same time, they have the lowest level of unemployment since the 1960s. Their economies are screaming for more workers. For the last 150 years, Canada's total immigration from all sources has usually been above 0.6% of population per year, sometimes as high as 3%. In 2022, it was 2.27% because of the wars in Ukraine and Afghanistan. Canada's current target is 1.25%, i.e., 500,000 people. That is the equivalent of America admitting 4.5 million people per year. Canada does that because otherwise its labor market would seize up. Canada has good programs for integrating new arrivals. The US is much richer than Canada. It could easily adopt similar programs. But, instead, America has choked off immigration. For 400 years, immigration has been the fuel of economic growth in America. Immigrants are not a cost. They are a benefit. They make America stronger and richer. The basic problem of immigration to America, documented and undocumented, or all kinds and all sources, is currently much too small, and has been for the last 25 years. We all know that if the immigrants at the southern border were all tall blonde, blue-eyed Norwegians, Republicans would be welcoming them with open arms. Some good information there. Karen, what are people feeling in Los Angeles today?
Wow, more ivory tower, head in the sand comments about, we don't have an open border. Did you watch 60 Minutes last night, showing the constant stream of Chinese walking through a hole in the border? Have you been down to the border states to see how many people come across daily? Have you watched the news and seen the sanctuary city mayors and residents complaining about the waves and numbers of undocumented immigrants, now that they are in their backyard and not someone else's? The Democrats have had plenty of opportunities to fix the border issue and have failed miserably. They are now trying to blame it on the GOP, Trump, based on the latest actions that Trump and the far right in government have thrown up to block the latest proposal. But why wasn't the open border issue worked on before? The US allows the largest hash of legal immigrants to enter our country, more than any other around the world. But it needs to be done legally. The current process is a disaster for US residents and people who come to the US illegally. The overwhelming percent of people are fine with immigration, but legal, controlled and vetted immigration, not the current system.
How about a Democrat perspective? Leslie, what have you got to say, from Connecticut?
So you're for the immigration bill. House Republicans are now stalling, playing political games with. You support more funding for CBP, and more money to hire more immigration judges to hear those asylum cases much more quickly, right? Because you can't have it both ways, refuse to fund the necessary steps, then complain that those steps are not happening. House Republicans would rather pander to people about immigration crisis than actually work to solve the problem. They are playing political games with easily manipulated people, and there seem to be a lot of those around.
We have Judgy on the line from Reading, and let's let the tape roll for several quick opinions.
Here in California, we have a long border with Mexico and have the same issues as any other border state. Do you notice how little noise we make about those issues? Meanwhile, we passed the UK to become the fifth largest economy in the world in 2016 and probably passed Germany last year to become the fourth largest. It seems immigration is a positive economically.
These migrants are after jobs that aren't being filled by people here, legally, because they involve too much work, risk for too little money to appeal to the latter group. Go after the employers if you actually want to make a meaningful change. We all know it.
My grandparents immigrated to the United States. When they arrived, they got two things from the government in the way of support: a week in quarantine and Americanized names. Their kids went to a high school that was 100% in English. When people talk about the contributions of immigrants to the United States in the past, you have to remember this. Our failure to enforce what immigration laws we have is one of the reasons that MAGA is going so strong. The packing plant I worked summers back in 1979 and 80 to pay for college at $11 per hour is now paying $16 per hour and has been busted by ICE about once a year. If wages had increased at half the inflation rate, would be $22 per hour, $39 if at inflation. And people wonder why there is angst about immigrants in those areas.
My experience with immigrants in California when a sixth of the Mexican population immigrated illegally is different than most people, but that is because I was dead broke at the time and living as an Anglo woman in Latino neighborhoods. Landlords rented out poor quality apartments at high rents, knowing that easily 20 people would be bunking in a 2-bedroom apartment. First, all the Latinos I met preferred the Republican Party. They wanted to become shopkeepers. So don't believe that the Democrats got votes there. They did not like blacks. Women were treated badly by the male family members. Schools were overwhelmed by students unable to speak English. Gangs threatened residents. It was a miserable experience.
I'm first-born general. Here in the USA, 63. My son is second general. 33. My father came here for severe medical reasons in the late 50s. Unfortunately, he succumbed to his illness, but not before he and my mother had me 1961. These facts permeate every moment of my life. I cannot pass by a migrant to this country without offering help. I ask only that my fellow Americans remember we are all from someplace else, save if you are Native American, indigenous. The true strength of the USA are all of the people regardless where they originated, now and forevermore.
60 Minutes just ran a piece filming 600 or so Chinese nationals flowing through a hole in the border fence. Tour buses were pulling up to drop off their loads. A border guard stood by and watched. Paul, how is this not an open border?
Take a look at the black and white Americans who were processing meat, putting roofs on houses, landscaping, farming, harvesting produce, writing software, and on in the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, 1980s. All Americans who were adults during those decades saw them, and perhaps had relatives who did the work, and maybe relatives who still do the work. Black and white Americans were making tires, remember Goodyear? Building car parts and engines and assembling them during all those years. Atlanta and other cities had a GM plant and a Ford plant and maybe Chrysler. Black and white Americans were weaving fabrics, making shirts, sheets, and towels. Remember Arrow and West Point Pepperell? Industrial engineers describe efficiency as good equipment and good methods. Economists describe efficiency as low wages. There was a war during those decades between labor and Wall Street. Wall Street won. Factories were closed, employees laid off, and the means of manufacturing, the equipment, was moved south or east. Wall Street and the owner class gained millions, billions. Main Street and the working class lost millions, billions. The USA gained more crime, drug addicts, welfare families. Our leaders side with Wall Street. Think about why and think about money. And Paul Krugman says America doesn't have open borders. It appears he doesn't watch or read the news. Our country is in big trouble. Who will speak for the working class? Anyone?
Most of our institutions have tests for admission. Law school, medical school, the Marines, etc. People who are willing to walk for months to seek admission to the U.S. have passed one of the most difficult tests. Are they people willing to work? Will they make good employees? Will they become successful? The bar that they have cleared is high, and thus, the odds are good. Why don't we stop demonizing these people and seek to construct a system that will distribute them equitably around the U.S.?
Well, there you have it, folks. Lots of varying opinions about immigration. Have a great day.